World of the Nomads. Why they learned to whisper. Before the wars, before the journeys, before stories written in the land of the nomads, there were the old seasons, the forgotten lessons, the stories passed quietly beneath the trees. These are the stories. Welcome to the world of the nomads. Before the quiet, long before bale lines stretched between hollows, before lanterns were shaded beneath bark covers, before children learned hand signals instead of shouting through trees. The nomads were loud, not because they were foolish, because in those days they still believed the forest belonged only to them. Voices traveled openly through the branches. Children laughed across ropeways. Gatherers called to each other from trees to trees instead of climbing closer. Even after dark, stories and songs drifted through the hollows, while lantern lights glowed warm against the bark. And for many seasons, nothing answered them back. The loudest among them. Among them, the younger nomads were one child, louder than all the others. If he found berries, everyone heard about it. If he found a swarm of grasshoppers beneath the roots, the whole hollow knew before they reached the ropeways. And whenever he crossed the hanging lines between the trees, he sang loud enough to wake birds from nearby branches. When he laughed, he did not think first. He just laughed. Wide, free, loud. The elders warned him often. Sound traveled further than feet. One of them told him, but the child only grinned. Then the forest will know I'm coming. The others laughed with him. At the time, it still sounded harmless. The forest changes. Then slowly, the forest began changing around them. Birds stopped nesting near the lower of hollows. Small creatures vanished from nearby roots. Hunters walked further and returned with less food. Even the ravens grew restless. After sunset, shifting uneasily through the upper branches long before the darkness fully settled in. At first, the nomads blamed changing weather, then poor seasons, then bad luck. But the elders noticed something else. Every evening after the loudest hours passed, the forest became too quiet, not peaceful, listening, and the quieter the forest became, the more they realized they had been speaking more than they had been hearing. The answer in the trees. One night, while children shouted games across the ropeways after dark, something deep beyond the cedar line answered them. Not with words, with movement. A branch cracked somewhere beyond the lower trees. Heavy, slow. The shouting stopped immediately. Another branch groaned. Closer this time. The elders motioned everyone inside the hollows without speaking above the whisper. No lanterns were uncovered that night. No fires were raised. No forest stayed back dark and wet around them while the sounds moved slowly beneath the branches, searching, listening, waiting. Then sometime near dawn, they heard breathing below roots, slow, deep, patient, close enough that some believed the bark itself was breathing with it. No one moved. No one spoke. And after a long while, the breathing faded back into the deeper forest. What the elders learned. Morning revealed enormous tracks circling the outer roots. Not hunting tracks, searching tracks. The creature had followed the sound. That evening, the nomads gathered beneath the oldest hollows, while the lanterns burned low behind bark covers for the first time. For a long while, no one spoke. Then one elder finally rested a hand against a tree beside him and said, "The forest remembers what it hears." The others understood. Sound traveled further than footsteps, further than scent, further than fear realized. And once danger learned where voices gathered, it returned. Not because it hated them, because they had taught it where to search. That was the season nomads began changing their ways. Children stopped shouting across long distances. Hunters learned signals instead of calls. Lanterns were dimmed after sunset. The laughter itself became softer beneath trees. Not because joy was forbidden, because survival was listening. The whispering begins. The loud child changed slower than others. Sometimes excitement still carried his voice too far before he caught himself. But over time, he even learned to pause before speaking, to listen before answering, to hear the forest before adding his own sound to it. And after many seasons passed, children born later began asking why nomads whisper once darkness settled across the forest. The elders always answered the same way, because the forest listens longer than we do. And from that season forward, the whispering began part of the trees. If you enjoyed this story, share it with another traveler beneath the trees, and subscribe for more stories from the world of nomads.